Hello, friends. This is Ernest Christian Speaking Podcast. It's an Ernest Unfiltered podcast, actually. And today I want to react to the news of 2 days ago, to the news of Dan LeBatard of ESPN announcing that he'll be leaving the platform, the ESPN platform he's been at for about, I believe, about on an official capacity for about 8 years, leaving in early January. And I'm going to read this article from the Miami Herald because it was written by Greg Cody. Greg Cody is a regular, actually, on the show. He comes on every Tuesday. He's one of the cast of characters that make the Dan LeBatard show amazing, a show that I've been listening to from the very beginning, being in South Florida, being here. This show started in South Florida, in Miami in 2004, and it's picked up steam ever since, and it's become a national brand now. So here's the article from the Miami Herald titled, Dan LeBatard leaving ESPN, but sure shaken fans, they will hear from him again soon. So, what has long been rumored and speculated became official Thursday, and the news Dan LeBatard and ESPN are mutually parting ways in 1 month. The final day on air will be Monday, January 4th for both ESPN Radio's Dan LeBatard show with Stugatz and the televised highly questionable show that Dan hosted. The radio show opened Friday morning, which the George Michael song Freedom, which began with this lyric: I won't let you down, I will not give you up, gonna have some faith in the sound, it's the one thing I have got. I won't let you down, so please don't give me up. LeBatard began the show somberly by saying, quote, we are drenched in a whole lot of questions, unquote, then immediately asking Zoo Miami's Ron McGill, quote, can I still name that hippo after myself, unquote. LeBatard alluded to having been distracted by personal matters this week, but did not directly address that he's leaving ESPN. In Thursday's announcement, he assured his legions of fans and listeners that he is not retiring and he will be heard from again on a different platform soon. Quote, thank you, Disney and ESPN, for a quarter century of absurd blessings, LeBatard said Thursday. To our loyal army of concerned fans and to everyone who walked along and played an instrument in our marching band to nowhere, know that it is a very exciting time for us, not a sad one, and that you'll be hearing from our laughter again soon enough. Greeny with Mike Greenberg will fill ESPN's 10 a.m. to noon radio slot beginning January 5th. Highly Questionable will remain on the network's TV line of air with a contributing team of hosts and guests. LeBatard and network had grown apart in recent months with several moves that disappointed LeBatard or caught him by surprise. One was the televised version of the radio show being moved from free TV to subscription-only ESPN+. Another was national show being reduced from 3 hours to 2. Another, more recently, was when Chris Cody, which was Greg's son, one of the show's producers, was included among ESPN's massive layoffs without LeBatard ever being informed or consulted. LeBatard called that, quote, the greatest disrespect of my professional career. So the build-up to Thursday's news to the coming change had been in the air for a while. Expect news soon on where LeBatard will be heard after January 4th. Many of his longtime crew is expected to go with him, although he have kidded on Thursday that, quote, can't believe Stugatz has finally achieved his dream of becoming a high-priced free agent. Okay, so as I said, I've been at LeBatard shows, my favorite radio show to listen to. It's kind of like my Howard Stern, and part of the success of LeBatard for me, and I think a big part of success really of LeBatard for me, really more than anything else, is the fact that, they don't take sports seriously. Like, they cover sports, but they don't take it seriously, and that's part of the shtick, I'm going to call it, but it's not really a shtick because they've been doing this really for 16 years, and this is who they are as a show. I think that LeBatard has outgrown ESPN long ago. I actually was when they first went from the solely local to ESPN back in, I think it was 2013 or 2014. I said that we'll see if they keep the 3 o'clock spot, still it'll be okay. Then when Colin Cowherd moved to Fox Sports 1 in 2015, and they moved LeBatard to the morning show, and knowing that the morning show is a lot more cookie cutter, me personally, as a fan of the show, I thought that would take away a little bit of the what makes the show great. When you're on a later time slot on radio, you get more leeway. You can do more creatively, in my opinion, anyway. And whereas at 10 o'clock, you have to be a little more corporate and buttoned up. And to me, I don't want buttoned up. I want a little more looseness. We're in an era now with media that if you're big enough, you don't need, platforms like ESPN and Fox Sports or anything else for that matter. You see Joe Rogan go now, now granted he's on Spotify now, but you've seen, other personalities, build their own platform from the ground up. Sage one about Clay Travis and I'll get the coverage, but he has built that brand from the ground up and has made himself into a really well-known national name, whether or not you like his content or not. LeBatard is at the point now where he's had a lot of success. He has a lot of connections. He's been in media now for well over 3 decades. His radio show is highly successful. It's a podcast hit. He doesn't need ESPN Radio anymore. He's outgrown ESPN Radio. ESPN Radio, to me, honestly, is almost like a gateway for newer talent. And the problem is when you've been there as long as as LeBatard has been there, or any other personality that's been there for over a decade, you become, I guess, bored, and you don't want to feel like your voice is being hindered to the point where you can't say what you want to say and whatnot. And I think, when you have all these things that happen, obviously with this employee being fired out without even like letting him know. Now, granted, LeBatard did actually hire him and covered his salary with his own money. But you have all those things that happen. That's when it's time to make the next change. I think Dan LeBatard honestly it has a bright future ahead of him. I think if I'm Dan LeBatard, I'm looking at platforms like Spotify. I'm looking at platforms on his own, because I think he's at a point now where he can do his own thing, and he has such an influence now, not just with himself, but his entire family of the producers, from Roy to Mike Ryan and obviously Stugotz and the other people involved in the show. It's such a big show now. It's such a big entity, a big brand, that he doesn't need ESPN. And honestly, he's better off on ESPN. I can see him going to Spotify. I can see Spotify getting involved in me, giving exclusive rights. I think, creatively speaking, Dan LeBatard going away from ESPN is going to help creatively this show even more. And you've seen through the years how this show has benefited from this being a show that's no one's like it. It's so original. It's why I love it. I have had points in the last couple of years, even recently, where I'll drop off for a little while and not listen to a couple of episodes here and there, maybe for weeks or months, and then some point I can drop back in. That's my own, that's for my own personal reasons, schedules, all that. But when you talk about great radio shows, that I listen to, and I listen to a lot of podcasts and a lot of media, across all forms, political, sports, pop culture, music, you name it. Dan LeBatard to me is probably the most creative show out there, and I really enjoy his content. And I'm actually, I look at this as great news, because I think overall, this takes the shackles off, and Dan could be Dan, and the rest of the crew could be the crew. You've seen clips now too, with their daily show. Now they've obviously dominated the podcast spectrum. Now they've expanded, the brand. Some of the guys have their own podcast now as a result of it, and they have this thing called Big Suey, which is a more free flowing conversational, banter between the crew and whatnot, with a lot more cussing and stuff. Which I'm not saying that cussing is great, but I like the fact. I like shows that are allowed to be themselves. If they cuss, they cuss. So what? Big deal. Okay? So Dan LeBatard leaving ESPN to me is great news, and I think he'll do even far better than he'll take the stick, take the baton, and take the show higher than even ESPN took it. So this is good news, really. If you're a LeBatard fan and you love radio, this is actually great news going forward. So. Anyway, that's it for me. So, over and out. Enjoy your weekend. Talk to you. Bye.